Hi everybody, welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, I'm Tanya, a doctor, lawyer turned homeschool mom of 3 kids ages 9, 6, and 4. Today I am doing a video in collaboration with my friend Danielle over at Danielle Gets It Done in our series on parenting emotionally complex kids. In particular, today we're going to be talking about ADHD and the holidays, or any kind of emotional complexity and the holidays. If you have a child who is emotionally complex, this is the video for you because the holidays, as we all know, can be incredibly stressful on totally neurotypical people, totally neurotypical adults who, after decades of holidays, should have it together by now, but sometimes do not. The holidays bring with it a lot of additional stress for parents of neurodiverse children because, one, there's a lot more people to deal with. So there's a lot more eyes on us and our children. There's a lot more noise and stimulation, which can often introduce a lot of difficulty for our kids and adults too. You know, a lot of like neurostimulation is going on during the holidays. There's a lot more noise, there's a lot more visual sights and sounds, and there's a lot of new people, there's a lot of hustle and bustle, there's a lot of new foods and tastes and textures. There's so many things that are different about the holidays. So obviously all of our kids are very different from one another. If you've met one neurodiverse child of any grouping of letters, you've met exactly one. Just because one child has ADHD doesn't mean your other child with ADHD will be the same or someone else as well. But that being said, with kids who have emotional complexities, the holidays bring with it a lot of challenges, as we all know. So these are just some general tips that may or may not be helpful, but take them all with a grain of salt, and like every piece of advice we give in these videos, you know, apply what works for your family and ignore the rest. I think that one of the first things I would recommend is that you do less during the holidays. The holidays are one of those times that's filled with checklists and bucket lists and go see Santa with the reindeer, go see Santa with the penguins, go see Santa in the mall, go bake gingerbread houses at the library, go check off, you know, this sleigh ride and this hay ride and all sorts of rides and bake this and bake that and frost this and frost that and make sure you watch this movie and that movie and write letters to the North Pole and go ice skating and go skiing and go sledding. And there's a lot of things to be done during the holidays, and I think that's not the best thing for anyone. And especially our neurodiverse kids who sort of thrive a lot on structure and routine and regular expectations. So my first thing would be to ignore everyone else's checklist but your own. If you are a checklist person and you want a bucket list, sit down with your family and kind of come up with a bucket list. Look over all the, you know, community flyers and emails and Facebook posts and decide, like, what is the best stuff here for us? Like, what do we like to do the most? And go do those things. But don't do all of them. Next year, the same things will often be around. So save some for next year. You know, you don't want to knock them all out this season. I think we can all get tempted with that idea that we're going to do all the things. So really rein yourself in. I'm one of those people. I get super enthusiastic about new things. I'm like, oh my God, Santa with goats. But you just need to rein yourself in, you know, really be honest to yourself about what things your kids and you yourself can handle, and just sign up for those things. Maybe one thing a week. Maybe you do hot cocoa, but you don't also mix it with movie night and decorating the tree. Maybe you do all of them. It really depends on your family, but be honest with yourself and really reflect on that. And make sure you leave margin in your schedule. Have a whole bunch of days where you have no particular holiday thing scheduled and you just have regular days. I promise you it will make this holiday season easier on your family and on you. My next thing would be food. Now, food sensitivity, food textures, food smells, that can be a really triggering thing for a lot of our kids. Now, if that is your family, I suggest that you just take it easy. Like, when you go to someone's house for dinner and they've presented you with this big array of food, and the polite thing to do, you know, is to have your plate arrayed with everything, give your kids some allowances. If they are really like, I want a dinner roll and that's all I want, or I want, you know, that star-shaped cookie and that's all I want at this meal, let it slide. Because one meal of having a cookie and a dinner roll and some random other side is not going to hurt them. There's no reason to force your child to do the polite thing and like sample everything or whatever. And really, this is a time to let go of how much we rely on other people's view of us to sort of affirm our position as parents. This year I've come into it much more, and I really encourage you to actively let go of other people's opinions, because we have a lot of visitors and visiting to do during the holiday season. We will encounter lots of people that we don't know and will never meet again. We will also encounter a lot of people that we do know, and fortunately or unfortunately, we'll probably meet every year at the holidays. And we all have those people in our families. And if that happens, let go. Like, be forgiving of whatever things they might say, but also be forgiving of yourself and set that boundary. Like, this is how I parent my child. I will not change how I parent my child because I'm afraid of what you might think of me. And in that vein, I would encourage you to just set some guidelines for people. You don't have to launch into these long diatribes of why your child is the way he is. Set some guidelines. Just like set a limit. You know, you can let your family members know, for example, if your kid doesn't like to hug and kiss everyone, that you're not going to make them do that. That, you know, they're not really like that into hugging and kissing right now. That's just not their thing. I personally advocate never forcing your kids to hug and kiss anyone. But if they're not into that, just let it go. You know, protect your child during this season. Don't worry so much about what people think of your parenting, because the happier you can be as a parent, the happier your child will be. So let it go. That tightness you get in your gut when you see people's eyes on you, when your child is like being a little bit, you know, emotionally complex about something. You focus on your kid, you know, let it go. And then if you feel the need to explain your child's behavior or your parenting strategy after, go ahead and do that in the shortest and most matter-of-fact way possible. You know, this really works for him. You know, this helps him, you know, be calm for the rest of the evening. This is just who he is right now. This is who he is, period. Whatever you want to say it with authority, say it with gentleness, and let it go. You know, we can feel so tightly wound up during the holidays because we feel the pressure of all those eyes on us. We're also often surrounded by a bunch of neurotypical children. Their challenging behaviors, their atypical responses to things can be highlighted on this backdrop of like perfectly behaved children or perfectly neurotypical children where their misbehavior is expected. You know, the style of their misbehavior is expected, and there's our kid doing the weird thing. I think a few things that can guard against your tenseness in response to this is, one, being prepared ahead of time. If you know certain things are going to be difficult for your child, talk to them about it beforehand. You know, Aunt so-and-so might say this or ask you to recite this poem or, you know, hug you really tight. Let's create a plan. Like, what do you want me to say? What do you think would happen if that happened? Are you okay with that hug? Do you think you can just like, you know, get through it? Or do you want me to let her know beforehand, you know, he's just not really into hugging right now? Or whatever, you know, like be your kid's advocate. And when we play this game where we're trying to please other people who are not in our family or not in our immediate family, we are often parenting at the expense of our child. You know, we are trying to look like the good parent, a more neurotypical parent, and in control parent at the expense of what actually brings our child comfort in that moment. And I find that the more closely I can align with my kid and what my kid needs, the better I feel, the looser I feel inside, like the less tightly wound, and the better the whole evening will proceed. Acknowledge what your child's challenges are and make a plan with them and with your spouse ahead of time. For example, if you know that your child might melt down after a certain amount of time, have an exit plan ready. Give your child a signal maybe that they can use if they feel like overwhelmed or they need to leave the room or they need some quiet space. Make a plan. A really simple plan, honestly, can be just waiting it out with them in the car, especially if it's cold. You know, like, you give me the signal, we'll slip out for a little bit. Either we'll take a walk in the fresh air, or we'll sit in the car and listen to some music for a little bit and then come back inside. sometimes you might need those little escape routes. Even as a neurotypical adult, and I very much doubt that I'm neurotypical, sometimes you feel that need, right, to like kind of escape the noise and the hustle and bustle. So imagine that in your child, that feeling of overwhelm. Like, be their advocate. Let them know ahead of time that you are always there to help them. This is not a performance that they have to put on. You're on their team. Like, be on their team and feel strong in that. You're not at these parties or anything to impress anyone about anything. You're not there to impress them about your parenting. You're not there to put your kid on a stage. You are really there to enjoy yourself and to let your kid have a good time. Because honestly, they probably will with like other kids and parents, and who doesn't like a good Christmas cookie, But you always want to acknowledge that there might be challenges and just prepare ahead of time for those things. Cycling back to what I said earlier about doing less and relieving that burden of checking everything off the list, really do less. A lot of things about the holidays can be overwhelming for a neurodiverse kid. All the colors, all the lights, all the music, all the presents, etc. So sometimes just really acknowledge who your kid is and decide, what is beneficial in our house? Is it beneficial to have lights in every single room twinkling all over the place or not? You don't have to do the holidays like everybody else does. So visually, auditorily, in a tactile fashion also, consider your choices and consciously parent that way. You can make the most wonderful, cozy holidays for your family as well. This is not something that is like divorced from your reality. You could do it, but it might require a little bit of advanced planning, a little bit of careful consideration about your own kids' special needs, because if we ignore them and we just thrust our kids into this experience and chastise them for behaving badly and feel badly ourselves because we're put in this position where we look like terrible parents and everything, we're setting ourselves up for a failed holiday season. So my best advice to you would be just acknowledge who your kids are. Acknowledge who you are. Set limits and boundaries around your holidays, because you deserve a wonderful holiday season too. Don't let other people's expectations trample all over them. And craft the holiday season that makes you and your family the happiest possible. I hope this has been helpful. My big tips would be less is more. Do less of everything until you get to your sweet spot. Let a whole lot of things go that relatives say, etc. 3, have an escape plan. Have plan Bs. Where you can say yes, say yes. When you can say no, say no. And definitely let your kid know that you are always, always on their side. And the opinions of others matter not to you. So with that, I wish you the happiest of holidays. If you guys have video ideas for what you would like Danielle and I to do in the future as part of the series, please leave them in the comments down below. And don't forget to check out Danielle's video. She is an amazing mom and expecting another, and I'm sure she has amazing tips to share with you about how to manage the holidays with your children as well. I wish you the very best holidays, you guys. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, happy all of it. So I wish you the very best.